It wasn't yelling. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even dramatic. And somehow that made it worse, because when Kyle Busch finally spoke about NASCAR's latest decision, the words didn't explode. They landed. Heavy, quiet, uncomfortable. Good for him. That was it at first. 3 simple words that sounded supportive until you realized they weren't. Not really, because what came next wasn't anger. It was something far more dangerous. It was honesty. And honesty has a way of exposing cracks that nobody wants to see. Because this story isn't just about a YouTuber getting a shot in NASCAR. It's about what happens when the rules start bending and who gets left behind when they do. Now, if you spent even 5 minutes in car culture online, you already know the name Cletus McFarland, real name Garrett Mitchell. Over 3 million subscribers, a massive audience built on burnouts, wild builds, dirt racing, and doing things with cars that most people wouldn't even attempt. He owns his own track, the Freedom Factory. He's loud, passionate, and completely real. And his fans, loyal, loud, everywhere. And that right there is the opportunity, because NASCAR has been chasing something for years now. Not speed, not talent, attention. A younger audience, a different kind of fan. People who didn't grow up watching Sunday races on TV, but grew up watching cars on YouTube. And Cletus brings all of that with him. So, when news broke that he had been approved, pending a test, to race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series at Rockingham, it made sense. From a business standpoint, it made perfect sense. New eyes, new fans, new energy. But racing isn't just a business. And that's where things start to get messy. Because when Kyle Busch was asked about it, he didn't dodge. He didn't sugarcoat. He didn't attack. He just said exactly what was on his mind. Kyle, I want to ask you about Cletus McFarland. It was announced this week that, pending a test, he can race the Xfinity car at Rockingham. Do you have any tea?
Good for him. I feel like when you've got drivers that have funding that are able to come up here and do this sort of stuff, by all means, there's going to be the critics. Where's the approval process? And I'm probably one of those to some, and this might be one of those cases. But we haven't stopped letting people race yet. So why now? That's where the tone shifts, because Busch isn't just talking about Cletus. He's talking about the system. And then he says the line that changes everything. The one that made the entire garage go quiet. I don't know how many races he's run. Denny Hamlin ran 10,000 before he got here, right? So I don't know if Cletus has run 10 or not, but there's definitely a need to having ample experience. My son's probably run more races than he has, and he's 10 years old. You know what I mean? So I don't think that sits well with many of us. Let that sit for a second. A 10-year-old with more race experience than a man about to step into a NASCAR Xfinity car. That's not just a jab. That's a warning. Because what Busch is really asking is simple and brutal. What are the rules now? Because for decades, there was a path, a ladder. You started small. You learned. You raced. You failed. You improved. You earned it. Thousands of laps, hundreds of races, years of grinding through short tracks, late models, anything you could get your hands on. That's how drivers like Denny Hamlin made it. That's how Busch made it. That's how almost everyone in that garage made it. But now, the question isn't just how good you are. It's how many people are watching you. And that changes everything. Because NASCAR does have an approval process. It exists for a reason. This isn't just driving fast in a straight line. This is 150 miles per hour, surrounded by 30 other cars, inches apart, making split-second decisions where one mistake can take out half the field. That kind of skill doesn't come from a simulator. And Busch made sure to point that out too. Use the sim as much as you can. The sim is only a tool. As good as that tool is, it's not great, you know? I mean, that's all you could do nowadays. There's no on-track test to be able to go do. I remember when I came in when I was 17, 18 years old, and it was time to go run some of these places for the first time. We had that real drivers use every single week. On the surface, that sounds helpful, but read between the lines, and it sounds like a warning. Because this isn't just about showing up. It's about surviving, understanding the car, understanding the field, understanding what happens when everything goes wrong at 150 miles per hour. And that's not something you fake. That's not something you learn overnight. That's something drivers spend years, sometimes decades, trying to master. So now the pressure shifts. Because if Cletus McFarland is serious, if this isn't just content, if this isn't just cameras and clicks, then the work has to happen behind the scenes. The quiet work, the hard work, the kind of work nobody sees. Because if he shows up unprepared, if he treats this like just another video, then every single criticism Kyle Busch just hinted at becomes real, becomes justified. But if he doesn't, if he puts in the hours, listens, learns, respects the moment, then maybe, just maybe, this becomes something else entirely. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. This isn't new. Motorsports all over the world have been flirting with this line for years now. Big names, big audiences, crossover appeal, it works. It brings attention. It brings money. And sometimes it brings chaos. Because every time a decision like this gets made, there's a trade being offered. Growth in exchange for tradition, exposure in exchange for process. And the problem is, those trades don't always feel fair. Especially to the drivers who did everything the right way. The ones who spent years chasing funding, traveling track to track, sleeping in trucks, racing anything they could just to stay alive in the sport. The ones who never had a shortcut. Because now, it looks like maybe there's one. And that's the part Kyle Busch couldn't ignore. Not because he hates the idea, but because he understands what it costs. Because when standards start to bend, they don't always snap back. And when,